I never expected a simple invitation to a family farm in rural Iowa to upend my entire life. But that's exactly what happened when I tagged along with my best friend Sarah's older brother, Jake. As the truck bounced down the dusty gravel road, I caught Jake glancing at me with a smirk that made my stomach flip. Something I'd later realize was the first spark of an attraction I wasn't ready to face. By the end of that first day, mucking stalls and sharing laughs under the endless blue sky, I knew this trip wasn't just about escaping the city. It was the beginning of a forbidden pull that would force me to confront who I really was. The farm was a sprawling piece of land, with rolling fields of corn stretching out like a golden sea under the relentless Midwest sun. Sarah had begged me to come along for the summer break, saying her family needed extra hands after her dad twisted his ankle, but she bailed at the last minute for an internship in Chicago. So there I was, Louis Thompson, a 22-year-old graphic design major from bustling New York, suddenly thrust into the quiet rhythm of farm life with Jake Harlan, her 25-year-old brother who'd never left Iowa. Jake was the epitome of small-town ruggedness, tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-kissed skin and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow that made him look like he stepped out of a country music video. He greeted me at the bus stop with a firm handshake and a teasing grin, saying, "City boy like you might not last a week out here." I laughed it off, but inside, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nerves. That first evening, as we sat on the porch swing after dinner, the air thick with the scent of hay and barbecue, Jake opened up about his life. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Harlan, were salt-of-the-earth types, devout Christians who ran the farm with ironclad routines and Bible study every Sunday. Jake had dreams once, he confessed, of going to college for engineering, but family obligations kept him rooted. "Sometimes I wonder what it'd be like to just pack up and leave," he said, staring at the stars. I nodded, sharing my own stories of city chaos and the pressure to succeed in a cutthroat art world. Our conversations flowed easily, like we'd known each other forever, and I found myself drawn to his quiet strength. The way his eyes lit up when he talked about fixing old tractors or the satisfaction of a good harvest. The next few days blurred into a routine of hard work and unexpected camaraderie. We'd rise at dawn, feeding the chickens and cows, repairing fences under the hot sun. Jake taught me how to drive the tractor, his hands steady on mine as he guided the controls, and in those moments, a tension built that I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, while we were baling hay in the barn, sweat dripping down our backs, he bumped into me accidentally, or so I thought, and our eyes locked for a beat too long. My heart raced, and I pulled away, muttering something about needing water. That night, lying in the guest room, I replayed the scene over and over, questioning the flutter in my chest. I'd always known I was gay, but I'd kept it buried deep, especially around straight-laced folks like the Harlans. Coming out in college had been one thing, but here, in this conservative bubble, it felt dangerous. As the weeks passed, the farm's isolation amplified everything. Sarah called occasionally, teasing about how I was turning into a farmhand, but she had no idea about the undercurrents. Jake and I spent more time alone, fishing at the nearby creek, where he'd share stories of his high school glory days as a football star, or late-night drives to the edge of the property to watch fireflies. One evening, after a storm rolled through, we sat in the truck cab, rain pounding the roof, and he turned to me with a vulnerability I'd never seen. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" he asked. I hesitated, then admitted my own struggles with identity, skirting around the edges of my sexuality. His response was a quiet nod, and in that shared silence, something shifted. Our hands brushed, and neither of us moved away. But the farm wasn't just idyllic. Cracks in the facade started showing. Mrs. Harlan, with her sharp eyes and Bible quotes, watched us closely, commenting once on how close we seemed. "Boys need to be careful with their friendships," she said over breakfast, her tone laced with unspoken warnings. Jake brushed it off, but I saw the tension in his jaw. The town nearby was even smaller, a place where everyone knew everyone's business, and rumors about city influences began to swirl after we were seen together at the local diner. One day, while picking up supplies, an old farmer clapped Jake on the back and joked, Don't let that New Yorker turn you soft, son. Jake laughed, but his eyes darkened. These subtle digs built a wall of societal pressure, reminding me how out of place my feelings were in this world. By midsummer, the attraction had become undeniable. During a heat wave, we cooled off in the swimming hole, splashing and wrestling like kids. But when Jake pinned me playfully against the bank, time stopped. Our faces inches apart, breaths mingling. He whispered, "Louie, what are we doing?" I didn't have an answer, but in that moment, I leaned in, and our lips met in a tentative kiss that sent shockwaves through me. It was soft, exploratory, born of months of built-up emotion, and when we pulled back, his eyes were wide with a mix of fear and wonder. "I've never, with a guy," he admitted, voice trembling. I reassured him, sharing my own journey, but the weight of what we'd done hung heavy. We agreed to keep it secret, but secrets on a farm have a way of unraveling. The conflicts escalated from there. Jake's younger brother, Tommy, a nosy 16-year-old, caught us holding hands in the barn one evening and confronted Jake later, calling it weird. Jake downplayed it, but the seed of doubt was planted. Family dinners grew awkward, with Mr. Harlan ranting about liberal agendas from the city eroding traditional values. His words like daggers aimed unwittingly at us. I felt torn, guilty for potentially disrupting Jake's life, yet aching for the connection we'd found. One night, after a heated argument with his dad about modern farming techniques that mirrored our hidden divide, Jake sought me out in the guest room. We talked for hours, his head on my shoulder, confessing his confusion. "I love my family, Louie, but with you, I feel alive for the first time." It was a raw admission, highlighting the impossible choice brewing between loyalty and love. As harvest season approached, the drama intensified. Rumors reached the Harlans through church gossip. A neighbor claimed to have seen us acting unnatural by the creek. Mrs. Harlan pulled Jake aside for a tearful intervention, quoting scriptures about sin and family duty. "You're the future of this farm, Jacob. Don't throw it away on fleeting temptations," she pleaded. Jake, torn between his upbringing and his heart, distanced himself, leaving me isolated and heartbroken. I considered leaving, packing my bags one stormy afternoon, but Jake stopped me at the door, his eyes pleading. "I don't know how to do this," he said, pulling me into a desperate hug. We decided to try stealing moments when we could, but the strain showed. Jake's work suffered, and my designs back home piled up ignored. The turning point came during the county fair, a whirlwind of lights, crowds, and fried food. We wandered the grounds separately to avoid suspicion, but in a quiet corner behind the livestock tents, we met up. "I can't keep pretending," Jake whispered, his voice breaking. Just then, Tommy appeared, eyes wide, and ran off to tell their parents. The confrontation that followed was explosive. Mr. Harlan's face red with rage, accusing me of corrupting his son, while Mrs. Harlan wept, begging Jake to choose the right path. Jake stood his ground for the first time, admitting his feelings, but the words cost him dearly. "If loving Louie is wrong, then maybe this life isn't for me," he said, voice steady despite the tears. The family splintered that night, with ultimatums flying. Stay and conform, or leave and lose everything. In the aftermath, Jake and I drove aimlessly, the farm shrinking in the rear view. We talked about futures, maybe moving to the city, starting fresh, but the pain of severed ties lingered. I questioned if our love was worth the destruction, if societal norms should dictate hearts. Jake, ever the pragmatist, wondered if he could ever forgive himself for hurting his family. As we pulled into a motel for the night, uncertainty loomed, but so did hope. The summer had changed us, forcing growth amid the ruins. The motel room in the outskirts of Des Moines was a far cry from the farm's cozy chaos. Stale air, flickering neon, and the hum of highway traffic. Jake paced the worn carpet, his hands running through his hair, while I sat on the edge of the bed, replaying the fair's blow-up in my mind. "I can't believe I said that to Dad," Jake muttered, collapsing beside me. His vulnerability hit hard. This man who'd shouldered farm burdens for years now faced a personal earthquake. I reached for his hand, our fingers intertwining, a small anchor in the storm. "You were brave," I whispered, but doubt gnawed at me. Had I pushed him too far? The next morning, over greasy diner breakfast, we mapped out options. Jake had a cousin in Minneapolis who might offer a couch, and I could crash at my apartment in New York until we figured things out. But calls home went unanswered, amplifying the isolation. Sarah finally picked up, her voice a mix of shock and support. "Louie, what the hell happened? Mom's in pieces saying you two are together." I explained, bracing for judgment, but she surprised me. "I've suspected Jake for years. Just give them time." Her words offered a sliver of hope, but the societal rifts ran deep. Back in Iowa, conservative values clashed with our reality, sparking debates in my head about whether love could bridge such divides. We hit the road north, the landscape shifting from flat fields to urban sprawl. Along the way, Jake opened up more, sharing childhood memories tainted by unspoken expectations. "Dad always said real men provide, protect the family. Never room for anything else." I shared my own coming-out story, losing friends, gaining freedom, and how city anonymity helped. But Jake's world was interconnected. Leaving meant exile. Stopping at a roadside park, we sat by a lake, his head on my shoulder. "What if this is a mistake?" he asked. I didn't have answers, only reassurance. "We're in this together." That night, in a cheap hotel, our conversations turned intimate, not physical, but emotional, peeling back layers of fear and desire. Arriving in Minneapolis felt like stepping into a new chapter. Jake's cousin, Mike, a laid-back mechanic, welcomed us without questions, though his raised eyebrow spoke volumes. "Family drama?" he guessed. Jake nodded, and Mike shared his own story of divorcing young due to not fitting the mold. It was a relief to find allies, but Jake's phone buzzed with texts from Tommy. "Come home. Bro Dad's pissed but misses you." The pull was strong, testing Jake's resolve. I encouraged him to respond, but he hesitated, torn between reconciliation and authenticity. Meanwhile, I juggled remote work, designing logos while worrying about our fragile bond. Tensions mounted when Jake landed a temp job at a warehouse, grueling shifts that left him exhausted. One evening, he snapped over a burnt dinner, frustrations boiling over. "This isn't me, Louie. I missed the farm, the purpose." I felt guilty, wondering if I'd lured him into chaos. We argued, voices raised, about sacrifices and selfishness. "You think I wanted this?" I shot back. "I came for a visit, not to upend your life." But beneath the anger was fear of losing each other. We reconciled with apologies and hugs, but the cracks showed. Society's whispers followed us. Even in the progressive city, stares at our held hands reminded us of broader prejudices. A week later, Sarah drove up, determined to mediate. Over coffee, she painted a grim picture. "Mom's praying non-stop, Dad's stubborn as ever. They think it's a phase." Jake's face hardened. "It's not." Sarah urged patience, but also challenged me. "Louie, are you sure about this? Jake's giving up everything." Her words stung, highlighting the uneven stakes. I had a support network, he didn't. That night, Jake and I walked the city streets, discussing futures. "Maybe we go back, talk it out," he suggested. I agreed, but anxiety churned. The drive south was silent, each mile amplifying doubts. Back in Iowa, the farm loomed like a judgment. Mr. Harlan met us at the gate, arms crossed. "You here to apologize?" Jake stood tall. "No, Dad, to explain." The family meeting in the living room was raw. Tears, accusations, Bible verses clashing with pleas for understanding. Mrs. Harlan sobbed. "We raised you better." Tommy watched wide-eyed, his earlier betrayal softened by confusion. I spoke up, sharing how love isn't chosen, but Mr. Harlan cut me off. "This ain't natural. Town's talking, church too." The rejection hit Jake like a punch, but he defended us. "If you can't accept me, then I can't stay." We left amid heartbreak, heading back to Minneapolis. The experience deepened our bond, but scars remained. Jake grieved his family. I questioned my role. As fall approached, we settled into routines. Jake exploring online courses, me freelancing. Small victories emerged. A call from Sarah saying mom was reading about LGBTQ issues. Hope flickered, but uncertainty lingered. Was forcing change worth the pain? Society's conflicts mirrored our own, pushing us to define love on our terms. Minneapolis became our makeshift home, a bustling contrast to the farm's solitude. Jake adapted slowly, trading overalls for jeans, but the transition weighed on him. Mornings, he'd stare out the window at the skyline, missing the open fields. City noise never stops, he'd say. I tried to bridge the gap, taking him to art galleries and parks, where we'd hold hands freely, a luxury denied in Iowa. But freedom came with reminders. News stories of anti-LGBTQ legislation in rural states fueled heated discussions. How can people hate what they don't understand? Jake wondered. I had no easy answers, only empathy from my own experiences. Work provided distractions. Jake's warehouse job evolved into an apprenticeship at Mike's garage, where he tinkered with engines, rediscovering purpose. I landed a contract with a design firm, sketching from our cramped apartment. Evenings, we'd cook simple meals, sharing laughs and dreams. One night, over pasta, Jake confessed, I never thought I'd be here, but with you, it feels right. His words warmed me, but underlying tensions simmered. Calls from home were sporadic. Tommy sneaked updates, saying Dad was softening, but pride blocked reconciliation. The first major conflict arose when Jake's high school friend, Ben, visited. Ben, a burly farmer type, eyed our setup suspiciously. Over beers, he joked about city ways changing folks, his tone probing. Jake laughed it off, but later admitted discomfort. He's like family. What if he judges? I encouraged honesty, and the next day Jake came out to him. Ben's reaction was mixed, shock, then awkward support. As long as you're happy, man. But he added, back home, it'd be tough. The encounter highlighted the divide. Even allies carried societal baggage. As winter set in, isolation crept. Holidays loomed, amplifying absences. Jake declined my family's invite to New York, opting for quiet reflection. I need to face this alone, he said. I respected it, but worry gnawed. On Christmas Eve, a surprise call from Mrs. Harlan brought tears. We miss you, son. Come home. Jake wavered, and we debated fiercely. They might accept us eventually, he hoped. I countered. Or force you to choose. The argument exposed fears. Mine of losing him to tradition, his of eternal estrangement. We reconciled with compromises. A visit, but together. The trip back was tense, snow blanketing the familiar roads. At the farm, the reception was cautious, hugs laced with restraint. Dinner was polite, but undercurrents surged. Mr. Harlan avoided eye contact, while Mrs. Harlan asked pointed questions about our friendship. Jake steered conversations, but Tommy blurted, Are you guys boyfriends? Silence fell. Then Jake affirmed, Yes. Chaos ensued, arguments about sin, family legacy, societal norms. Mr. Harlan stormed out, yelling, This house ain't for that. Mrs. Harlan pleaded for prayer. We left early, Jake's resolve cracking. Maybe they're right. Back in Minneapolis, doubt festered. Jake grew distant, burying himself in work. I felt helpless, questioning if our love was selfish. One evening, he broke down. I love you, Louie, but this hurts everyone. We talked through the night, weighing options, therapy, time apart. Ultimately, we chose to fight, attending a support group for LGBTQ couples from conservative backgrounds. Stories there mirrored ours, offering solidarity. Jake connected with others, realizing his struggles weren't unique. Spring brought renewal. Sarah visited, advocating for us. I've been talking to Mom and Dad. They're scared, but learning. Her efforts culminated in a family Zoom call, where tentative bridges formed. Mr. Harlan grumbled apologies, admitting ignorance. It wasn't perfect, but progress. Jake and I grew stronger, our bond tested and tempered. Yet, societal debates raged. Bills targeting LGBTQ rights made headlines, fueling our activism. We volunteered at Pride events, channeling pain into purpose. As summer returned, we revisited the farm voluntarily. Tensions eased, conversations flowed, acceptance budding. Jake helped with chores. I designed farm logos. One evening, watching the sunset, Jake proposed a future. Marry me someday? Overwhelmed, I said yes, but reality intruded. Legal battles, family full buy-in. The path ahead was fraught, but our choices defined us. With engagement whispers in the air, our lives accelerated. Jake enrolled in community college for mechanical engineering, blending his farm roots with new ambitions. I thrived in design, landing gigs that allowed flexibility. But external pressures mounted. National news of LGBTQ discrimination cases echoed personal fears. What if things regress? Jake worried. I reassured, but inwardly questioned resilience. A major hurdle came when Jake's application for student aid required family info. Calling home reopened wounds. Mr. Harlan helped reluctantly, but with conditions. Visit more alone. Jake refused. Louis is family now. The standoff highlighted ongoing conflicts, generational gaps, rural versus urban values. We navigated by setting boundaries, but it strained Jake, who confided, I miss the simplicity. Social circles expanded, bringing diverse perspectives. At a Pride mixer, we met couples with similar stories. One pair from Texas shared tales of disownment turned reconciliation. Inspired, Jake wrote a letter to his parents, pouring out emotions. Gratitude, hurt, hope. The response was slow, but positive. Mrs. Harlan invited us for Easter. The visit was pivotal. Awkward at first, but games with Tommy and shared meals thawed ice. Mr. Harlan even asked about my work, a small olive branch. Yet, controversy struck when a local Iowa paper ran a story on changing family dynamics in rural America, anonymously featuring the Harlans. Rumors swirled, church friends distanced. Mrs. Harlan called in tears. They're saying we're sinners for accepting this. Jake rushed home alone, supporting her through backlash. I stayed behind, feeling sidelined, questioning if I'd ever fit. Upon return, Jake was resolute. We can't let hate win. The summer brought a farm crisis. Drought hit hard, threatening harvest. Jake volunteered help, and surprisingly, I joined. Working alongside, the Harlans forged unlikely bonds. Mr. Harlan grumbled but appreciated efforts, sharing beers one night. Didn't think a city boy could handle this. It was progress, but not without slips. Bible discussions turned tense, societal views clashing. Jake mediated, his growth evident. Personal doubts resurfaced during a quiet moment. Alone in the barn, Jake admitted, sometimes I wonder if I'd be happier straight, fitting in. The words gutted me, sparking an emotional confrontation. Is this real for you? He affirmed, but the seed of insecurity grew. We sought counseling, unpacking layers, internalized homophobia, family pressure. Sessions revealed Jake's deep love, but also fears of regret. As fall elections loomed, political divides amplified. Anti-LGBTQ rhetoric from candidates mirrored Mr. Harlan's old views, straining fragile peace. During Thanksgiving, debates erupted. Government shouldn't dictate love, Jake argued. Mr. Harlan countered with tradition. I stayed silent, but later vented to Jake. How much more can we take? Our relationship teetered, choices weighing heavy. Resolution came unexpectedly. Tommy came out as questioning, confiding in Jake. The family rallied, hypocrisy exposed. Support for Tommy forced reflection on us. Mrs. Harlan apologized. I was wrong. Mr. Harlan grumbled assent. It wasn't a fairy tale, but a turning point. Societal shifts mirrored in microcosm. With winter, we planned ahead, moving to Chicago for balance, city perks with farm access. Jake's studies progressed, my career boomed. Our engagement became official, rings, simple symbols of defiance. Friends celebrated, but we knew battles continued. Chicago's skyline welcomed us like a promise, apartments buzzing with energy. Jake adapted quicker this time, his engineering classes challenging but fulfilling. I freelanced from a shared studio, our life a blend of urban hustle and weekend farm escapes. But harmony was fragile. Societal undercurrents persisted. News of overturned rights bills kept us vigilant, volunteering more. Family ties strengthened gradually. Holidays at the farm became routine, acceptance growing. Mr. Harlan even attended a PFLAG meeting, gruff but present. Mrs. Harlan baked for our visits, Tommy our ally. Yet, external conflicts arose. A coworker outed Jake at school, sparking whispers. He handled it with grace, but it reminded us of ongoing prejudice. Our wedding planning intensified drama. Venue debates, city elegance versus farm simplicity, mirrored identities. Invites to conservative relatives sparked boycotts, hurtful but expected. Jake wavered. Maybe postpone. I pushed. No, this is us. Preparations forged unity, choices defining love over fear. The ceremony, on the farm under a clear sky, was poignant. Vows exchanged amid tears, Mr. Harlan walking Jake down the aisle a symbolic gesture. Not all attended, but those who did celebrated authentically. Reception laughter mixed with toasts, bridging worlds. Post-honeymoon reality set. Jake's job offer in Iowa tempted, but we chose Chicago for balance. Visits home revealed evolving town. Pride flags in windows, slow change. Our story inspired Tommy, who navigated his journey openly. Reflecting, the path from that first farm day to now was tumultuous, filled with choices that tested souls. Love prevailed, but at what cost? Families mended, societies shifted incrementally. Is it true that true love always requires sacrificing one's roots? Or can it coexist with them?